welcome back to my channel. I am here to talk to you about something that I am incredibly excited to be a part of, and that is the 2020 Blue Peter Book Awards. So you may have seen, if you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, that this year I have been one of 3 judges picking out the shortlist for the Blue Peter 2020 Book Awards, alongside Meryl Fernandez and Joseph Coelho. It has been the most wonderful experience on my end, and I am so excited that I can now share with you the books that we have shortlisted, because I adore every single one of them. And in fact, one thing that I really want to say before I talk more about the shortlisted books is that I adored all of the long-listed books. There was not a book that was long-listed for either the books with facts or fiction book categories that I didn't love. They were all fantastic, and I would highly recommend you popping on over to the Book Trust website, who run this prize in collaboration with Blue Peter, to look at all of the long-listed books, because they are genuinely all fantastic. Would highly recommend each and every one, and I think they show the diversity of children's literature out there. But if you don't know much about the prize, or perhaps even Blue Peter if you didn't grow up in the UK, then you might not know that this is a children's book award. There are 2 categories. There is the best story category, which encompasses fiction novels, as well as the best books with facts category, which focuses on illustrated non-fiction. 10 books were longlisted in each category, which my fellow judges and I all read together, and then came up with the 3 that we just felt best represented each category, and like I mentioned, the diversity of children's literature out there, and really just wanted to put in the hands of more children. And one of the things I think is special about the Blue Peter Book Awards is that children pick the winner. So although I have been completely honoured to be a part of the narrowing down process, I am very pleased to be able to say that children will be picking the winner, because these books are for them as much as I enjoyed them as an adult. And for my non-UK viewers who don't know who Blue Peter is, it is a children's television programme that has been running since the 1950s. Multiple generations at this point have grown up watching Blue Peter. I grew up watching Blue Peter. It had a massive impact on my interests and my watching as a child, and it has stayed with me until today. And being a part of these book awards and getting my Blue Peter badge was like a childhood dream come true. So I had to film a video about the experience and the books that we picked, just because I have had so much fun, and I want to make sure that all of you are aware of these wonderful books as well. But if you're interested in learning more about the awards, there will be tons of content on the Blue Peter website and on BBC iPlayer, where you can of course watch Blue Peter. It is usually aired on the CBBC channel, which is the children's branch of BBC, and again, I just can't believe I was involved in a project with Blue Peter and the CBBC. Childhood Jean is like bubbling over with like enthusiasm at this whole experience, so yeah. But let's talk more about the books that we did shortlist. Like I mentioned, I loved all of the long listed titles. It was no easy task narrowing this list down, but I am so ecstatic with the 3 books that my fellow judges and I picked out in each category, so I really wanted to share them with you. And the first one is Owen and the Soldier by Lisa Thompson, published by Barrington Stokes. Now, Barrington Stokes specialises in literature for dyslexic or just under-enthusiastic readers, and it's such a wonderful publishing house at kind of exposing more children to reading and making them feel more comfortable reading. And I know that Owen and the Soldier particularly moved all 3 of us when we read it, and then we're chatting about it. I think we all had quite similar experiences with it. It's all about Owen, a young boy whose dad is gone. He lives with his mum alone now, who herself is a little bit unable to support him in the way that he needs emotionally, and he doesn't really know where to express all of these emotions that he's feeling. And he ends up sitting down one day in the park next to this stone soldier who is a commemorative memorial, and sharing his life with the soldier, and he finds it a really therapeutic experience. However, the council have decided to renovate the park in which the soldier sits and get rid of the statue. Now, of course, Owen is devastated by this idea, and he sets about trying to change the council's mind in simple yet effective ways, and it is such a beautiful book. Short but packs a punch. I teared up reading this book. It's incredibly effective and incredibly identifiable. Absolutely adore it, and I'm so pleased that it's on the shortlist, which I am going to say about all of these books. Next up, for the best story category, we also have Vote for Effie by Laura Wood and published by Scholastic. This book is so timely, yet timeless at the same time. It's all about Effie Kostas, a young British Greek girl who has moved to a new school. Her parents have relocated with her and her younger sister, and she has to find a place, she has to make new friends, she has to decide where she wants to belong, and she ends up deciding to run for student council president despite being the new girl in school. And throughout the experience of running a student campaign, she ends up finding a new friendship group, learning more about her peers, and also making some changes in her school. And I think it's such a positive book to encourage young people to be involved in their communities and the wider world, to take notice of what's going on around them and remind them that they can make a difference. You know, if they want a girls football team like Effie wanted, then there's no reason they can't have one if they stand up, if they make their voices heard, and equally they can support others in having their voices heard. They're perhaps less comfortable being at the centre of attention, and I think that's also one of the nice things about this book, is that the friendship group Effie develops is a really diverse range of children who have different abilities and are comfortable doing different things, and together they just make the most wonderful team. It also touches just a little bit on the history of women's activism, because Effie makes friends with their elderly neighbour who talks a lot about her experiences in the past and how she was excluded from some of the things that Effie can now do in the 21st century. Such a positive book, such a positive main character, and the kind of book that I think so many children and adults would find incredibly inspiring. Then last but not least, for best story, we have Wild Spark by Vashti Hardy, also published by Scholastic. And this one shakes things up a little bit by introducing a little bit of fantasy into the mix. Although it's fantasy tinged with technology, it blends mechanics with magic, which I think is one of the things that makes it particularly unique for a children's fantasy book, and it's so cleverly done. Such a fantastic, intricately built world and such interesting characters. And we follow Prue Haywood, who lives on a farm with her parents and has recently lost her brother. She's coping with that grief while still, you know, trying to live her everyday life, until her brother gets an offer to go and train at this like mechanical magical school in the city, and they obviously haven't realised that her brother has passed away, so she decides to take his place instead, as she thinks if she attends the school she might be able to bring her brother back to life, because the main magical element of the society is that they build these intricate mechanical animals which look entirely real, and then are able to bring the souls of the departed into these mechanical animals through some magical ceremony. The only thing, however, is when the souls return to the world of the living, they can't remember who they are, so they are starting afresh in a new life. But Prue is determined in her grief to get her brother back, but instead she gets caught up in all of the like political ongoings in the city, makes some new friends, has to learn who to trust and who not to trust, and it's just a rip-roaring adventure. But I loved all three of these books. They are incredibly engaging stories, as well as having a little bit of deeper meaning and dealing with, you know, contemporary themes that do affect young people in our world. So I thought they were just so perfect and so well deserving of being on this shortlist. But we do have 3 more books which are part of the Books with Facts category, and the first one on the top of my pile here is Fanatical About Frogs by Owen Davey. This is published by Flying Eye Books, and it the most beautifully illustrated fact book all about frogs. And when I was reading this in particular, I just felt like my younger self, because when I was a child my favourite kind of non-fiction illustrated picture books were ones about animals. I pored over my big book on reptiles on a regular basis, and I know that the younger version of me would have adored this book, but actually the older version of me adored this book, and I have been sharing a lot of frog facts with my friends since reading it. I actually think you might have seen me share some frog facts on Twitter. I couldn't help myself. I've learned a lot from this book, but this is a little insight into what some of the illustrations look like inside, and like I said, it's just It's all about frogs, and each frog is accompanied by the most gorgeous illustration that I think really brings these creatures to life and may perhaps even inspire some future zoologists. I think this book is just incredibly fascinating and really brings the topic to life through both the information, the choice of facts, and the illustrations. They just accompany one another perfectly. And like I mentioned, everybody I know now knows a little bit more about frogs because I have been repeating what I have learned from this book. But then tackling a slightly different topic, we have How to Be an Astronaut and Other Space Jobs by Dr. Sheila Kanani and Sol Linero, and published by Nosy Crow. Again, these books are all illustrated, so I have to give you a little glimpse of the inside. What I loved about this book in particular is that it's not just about how to become an astronaut, it's about all of the jobs involved in our adventures to outer space and learning more about outer space. From scientists to engineers to astronauts to chefs, the people that make it possible for us to learn more about what is going on beyond our planet, in the rest of our solar system, and potentially one day the rest of the universe. I think any child who reads this book would be encouraged to know that there is a job for them that is involved in the exploration of outer space, even if they decide not to be an astronaut. It just shows a diverse range of people doing a diverse range of jobs in one seemingly small industry that is actually so expansive. And I thought that the illustrations again just did such a wonderful job of giving you an insight into this world and making it fascinating and engaging. Just love it. It even has some pop-out shapes in the back so you can build your own rocket and get started on your space adventure now. But then last but certainly not least is Rise Up, Ordinary Kids with Extraordinary Stories, written by Amanda Lee and illustrated by Amy Blackwell and published by Buster Books. Now, I actually think that this book is incredibly unique, and I think all the judges and I felt that, because it introduces readers to a wide cast of different children who have done such interesting, incredible things in their life, from sports to science to political activism at home, but it also imparts tips on the reader in how they can do something a little bit similar on a small scale in their own home. You know, we don't all need to be the next future Prime Minister to make a little bit of a difference or to pursue our own interests. For example, we learned all about Malala, who championed women and children's education in her home of Pakistan before being forced to flee. And then, inspired by Malala, the book tells us a little bit about how we can learn to speak in public, how we can have our voice heard, or perhaps how we could start our own blog to share our opinions and thoughts on what's going on around us and encourage access to education. We then also have children like Ellie, who loved to swim and then went on to win their sport in the Beijing Olympics for the United Kingdom. And for those who are interested in getting into swimming, there's a little bit about how you can learn the different styles and develop your swimming technique as well. So a little bit of something for everybody, I think, and such, again, a diverse range of different young people, from footballers to public speakers and everything in between. Again, I just think this book is so inspiring and encouraging and fascinating for readers of all ages, but particularly children, because it focuses on children as opposed to just all of these adults who have done interesting things. It's perfectly possible to get involved in stuff that you care about as a child, and you should completely be encouraged to do so. But that wraps up all 6 books that my fellow judges and I shortlisted for this prize. I myself am absolutely fascinated to know which ones are picked as the winners of each category in 2020. So do keep abreast of the prize online to learn who wins in the coming year. But equally do check out all of these and the long listed books, which will be linked down below. All of the resources and websites I've mentioned will of course be linked down below. I have had so much fun participating in this prize, so like I said, I had to film a video and talk about it with all of you, so I hope you have equally enjoyed watching this video. Thank you so much to both Book Trust and Blue Peter for inviting me to be one of the judges this year, and equally thank you so much to Joseph and Meryl for being such wonderful co-judges. It was such a pleasure to work with you. And until next time, happy reading. I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys.